Howdy everybody, Eric McCool here. I'm here with my good friend EJ in Flint, Michigan. And I came to Flint to sort of check out what's going on around here, and I got an incredible tour of the whole place and just got a really good download from EJ here, who's on the ground doing all sorts of cool projects here in Flint. And I brought him on to talk about those projects. So EJ, welcome. Thank you for welcoming me to your scene. It's been really fun.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it has, and I'm so excited about all the stuff you've told me. I really want to share that with my audience here. So, first of all, tell us about Flintopia and what you're up to here in this project.
Sure. So Flintopia started as a project after I got out of the military. I served 6 years in the Air Force. I went back to school for sustainable living. And the first place, well, I googled sustainable living degree because I didn't know such a thing existed. Mm-hmm. The first thing that came up was Maharishi University of Management. So I ended up going there for about a year and a half and studying sustainable living. During that time, I went to a conference the first semester. I think it was March 2013, and it was a community agriculture conference in Appleton, Wisconsin. And they had groups. I formed a group to talk about an intentional community. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, they had showed the film Urban Roots, which is about the urban farming boom in Detroit, Michigan. So there was environmental science majors from all over the Midwest there, and there was a lot of pop, from people were really excited about this.
Yeah.
And people were hooting and hollering, And we got back on the bus to go back to Iowa to school, and my buddy Mark Chavez was writing. Well, he had Detroitopia written on a notebook, and he had like 2 pages of notes. And this is a guy who creates projects and gives them away. He's like that. But anyway, he helped me start it. I saw Detroitopia, and I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "We got to do this, man." And I said, "We should call it Flintopia because I'm from Flint, and it's a mini Detroit, and it suffers from the same problems, environmental, economic." And I said I had family and friend connections there, and so yeah, I mean, Flintopia was like the first pitch, but the name kind of stuck because a lot of people add topia to everything.
Right.
I think it works because Flint has a T at the end. Anyway, we ended up, I gathered some students at the end of the semester, some buddies, and we came to my stepfather's land on 5 acres in Lapeer County, which is next to Genesee County here in Flint. And we incubated the project as well as with Mark Winnington, who's right there. He just got into town.
Hi.
So Mark was one of the originals as well. And then my father ended up coming on board, and we bought this building here. Well, I bought it from a woman in Florida. She was a retiree, and it was an old bank building 100 years ago. So we turned fixed up the apartments upstairs, and the idea was that we could come to a city like Flint and find guys who could put stuff together with spit and glue and build a little, eco community. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, I mean, there's enough junkyards here and spare parts, and people throw so much out that if you have a small crew of people to put the pieces together, you can do some stuff.
You can rig it up.
Exactly. So we have 2 full-time work exchange, and as well as Mark, who came back this season from Florida to do a seasonal work exchange. We have the porta potty business now. We're putting in permanent green infrastructure, Hobo cultures. We're building the orchard and the nursery. And we have 3 locations now. We got another house on Indiana near Tom Allen, who's one of the you met.
Yep.
We had dinner with. And folks come to Flintopia. Tom's one of the guys we'd like to meet because he came from Iowa to join the community. He bought a house here. Mm-hmm. That's one of the great things about Flint is you can get a house really cheap.
Oh yeah, I've been seeing it.
Yeah.
Crazy how cheap you can get them.
Yeah. So my plan was originally to create a hub and underground railroad system in the Great Lakes region for especially permaculturists. Mm-hmm. And then I realized that permaculturists are Renaissance polymath type people. They often have other skills to offer. And so many of the work exchanges are organic farms or bed and breakfast. But I thought, what if folks could just offer whatever skills they have, like playing live music for every meal, painting a mural, hammering up drywall, right? These are the things we need. We really need people who can do construction and permaculturists. Yeah. So basically, we're open to short-term temporary work exchange, and anyone who wants to come to Flint and get started, get property, buy a house. We've helped several people do this now that are in the neighborhood and are doing their own projects. Yeah. So we're not saying, you got to be part of our project. We just love that green stuff is going on here, and we want to continue that, as well as do our programs, which is, helping borderline homeless people, we have to cherry pick and kind of choose the cream of the crop, because a lot of guys are doing drugs.
In other words, the people that you're going to work with and provide opportunity for, you want to make sure that they're going to hold up their end and do things. It's an accountability.
Exactly. So there's a lot of street people here, but a lot of them are skilled.
Yeah.
Flint is a town of tinkerers. So a lot of people don't last because they have other issues like substance abuse of all kinds and all kinds of things. But we work with whoever can do it, basically.
Yeah.
We've gotten some people off the street, bums off the street, on Social Security, getting them into counseling, and the other guys, we put them on work exchange and we try to pay them from what we make on the corner. People give us donations, we sell them, and we just try to help people any way we can and try to provide an opportunity for growth. And now we have yoga 3 days a week. We have game night Saturday night as well as Permablitz Saturday, and we have little community meals, and so we're just trying to build a hub. Well, it's here now.
Yeah, you've got a hub, man. This is a great sprawl of infrastructure you guys have that you're using.
So we've been building this, and it looked, we didn't know if we'd keep going. It seemed like we were going like this, and then now it seems like we're kind of leveling out, and slowly we find it. I think we
slow climb.
Yeah. So at first it doesn't know if it's sure if you're going to make it, but then and it seems like we're here to stay. And now I've been traveling seasonally, so I come back here to plant and manage the green projects as well as all the other stuff we have going, and then travel seasonally to the south to Big Bend, which we talked about, Big Bend, Texas.
Right, West Texas. Woo!
Yeah.
Beautiful land out there.
Yeah. So it's gorgeous down there. I'm working with a friend of mine who was a former professor to do restoration down there and do an kind of like a bird watching Airbnb type place, so I can have a winter spot.
Yep.
And you can grow all kinds of stuff down there. And I've always wanted to see what a desert food forest would look like coming in. So I've been obsessed with that idea ever since I saw it Bringing the Desert with Jeff Long.
Yeah.
And that's really what I'm really psyched on is, we're doing social ecology because I feel that people can plant gardens and orchards, but the fruit will fall on the ground and rot, or the gardens or they just don't get used. This is Bella.
Bella's a big old bear hunter.
Yeah. She's raised in the UP to hunt bears, and she's our little mascot.
She's a great dog, too. I love her.
So social ecology is creating social constructs for people to gather around these so that they don't go to waste. These constructs we create.
Yeah.
And so it really is often getting people in the same room and kind of letting it happen.
Yeah.
And so, that's what we do. We're doing social ecology, and I want to continue to travel and do Hobo, which I told you about.
Yeah, well, tell us about Hobo though, so
Sure.
everyone can know, because this is really cool. This is a great vision.
So Hobo it was originally called Post-Industrial Pioneers, which is a really terrible name, but I always knew that Flint would not be the place I would be all the time. I wanted to be here in the summer, when in the peak of the season, and have enough work exchange to manage the other seasons, but be here during the peak time because it's really fun and there's lots of good projects here. But post-industrial meaning the post-industrial era of the manufacturing era.
Yeah.
So a paper I wrote in college, which is basically what Hobo is, would be my PhD if I wrote my PhD, which is that the Great Lakes economy is the next big economy, and that we have the existing infrastructure and business connections in the East Coast, etc. People are moving back to, creatives are moving back to open restaurants and live near their families because they can do it for a third of the price. And also the environmental aspect. And now we have the water protectors. And the freshwater. This is the greatest freshwater resource on the planet.
Yeah.
So the idea with Hobo is that it's a game you play, because I find that, many people pay for their travel experience. They pay for the experience and it gets them through the door, and they don't really get this. I find that traveling is much better when you basically use these databases. Hobo is a system.
Well, you get the authentic experience rather than the packaged experience of tourism.
So 5 databases: couchsurfing.com, intentionalcommunity.org, helpx.net, workaway.info, and woofing. So
you got all these databases where you can find hosts.
Right.
And so when you're traveling, you're going places where instead of having to pay a bunch of money to be there, you trade what you can do, what you have, find out what their needs are. Yeah.
And most of the I try to focus on intentional communities because that's really what I feel I set out to do.
Yeah.
Not just work exchange or couch surfing, which is nice, but if there's two paths in sustainable living, there's two paths to the master's program. One is reformation and one is revolutionary. So reformation is using reforming existing institutions and practices, but revolutionary is creating new ones. And I mentioned Buckminster Fuller. He said, create new technology that makes the old obsolete. So create new constructs, social constructs to make the old obsolete. And I find the only way to do that is to literally herd people through the door. Catalyze people walking through that door. And just like the nitrogen fixers in the 7-layer food forest, you have the largest is the overstory nitrogen fixing tree, like the intentional communities. They're the largest, and there's the least of them. The couch surfers are like the ground cover, right?
I like this analogy.
Right, there's the most of them, but there's the smallest. Often someone's apartment,
Right.
And then somewhere in the middle you have the bushes, which is the work exchanges.
Yeah.
Helpx.net, workaway.info, and woofing. And so the communities I visited, some of them host work exchange, some don't. Most of them don't host couch surfers. But at Flintopia, the idea with the hubs is that we would host all of them. We do work exchange from outside Flint, ideally try to get people from inside Flint.
Yeah, bring and make a local economy out of it.
And create an intentional community just based around basically the people who want to grow.
Yeah.
As long as people are into self-development, then the community's here to support them.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
It's very open to everybody.
Right.
And accessible.
Right. And when you started this, people say, Flintopia, we'll put it on every building, and in Hobo it'll be like Starbucks. I'm like, no. That's the whole idea, is to not have that. Is to basically create a bunch of mini hyper local locations, so that each individual location has their own rules, and that becomes the game, because we have to conform to their rule set. And so it's a huge opportunity for college kids, for people who want to make new friends, for people who want to learn new skills. And I just find that it's literally the best way to live, because these locations have the best food and some of the best, most heartfelt people.
Yeah, the real relationship that you can develop with people who look you in the eye, who hug you,
Right.
who are real with you and are honest with you. And that's something that I find in intentional communities is so it's so much easier to bond with people and for there to be trust. And it's kind of like what we talked about in the permaculture community. There's sort of a understanding when you are around other people who are on that level or who are working at certain goals. You just have a camaraderie that's built into your unique position in life, because not too many people are on this game, right? I mean, I don't know. I guess I love the vision of having these safe havens, these safe harbors for people to go to and know that, here we respect each other.
Right.
Here we honor our agreements. We practice a way of life that is so much more fluid and more of a dance, and everything. There's less work, because the work is expression. It is community. It's doing things with each other. Anyhow, that's what comes to my mind when you're talking about all of this. And I see that that's what happened here. I mean, since I came here, I've been fed so much awesome food. I've been treated very well, as if like I'm family. And that's the kind of thing that people yearn for. A lot of people don't have that in their world. They don't get that. And so if we can create these hubs, these places where that's the case, I feel like that's what it's going to take, is a bunch of places like this to help beckon people out of the rat race, the matrix, the system, and be like, hey, come live this other way.
Right.
This is better.
Right.
And all we have to do, we don't have to overthrow them with laws or with their own legislation system. We just have to make their system be less participated in, to the point where there's a start at tip. Whoa, where are they all going?
Right.
Where's our voters? Where's our buyers? Where's our customers?
Right.
They're gone, man. They're back in the real world, in the agora, in the community space. So anyway, great, man.
If all public parks were food forests, then no one would go to the grocery store.
Right.
We raise the kids early, but all the green infrastructure around us, most of it's not edible or non-useful, or people don't know how to use it.
Exactly. Yeah. Both.
So we pay through the nose for $4. For 2 handfuls of raspberries, you pay $4. And if you plant 6 bushes, you can have basically a cyclical harvest. So
yeah.
And so Hobo is one player. It's a game, and people travel in guilds, just like people travel in groups. Well, the ultimate example, to use a pop culture reference, is Lord of the Rings. So people like to caravan in RVs, for example. And I think that when solar electric RVs become more prevalent, and I think that caravanning as a lifestyle choice will explode.
Yeah.
And I think that the places people choose to stay when they travel north to south in Snowbird will often be these communities. Because again, they have the best food. Food you can't get at the grocery store.
Yeah.
It's just better. It's just better food. It's better living. And
Clean, yeah.
oh yeah, and people don't seem to be in as much of a rush. They don't seem to be anxious, and they don't seem to be wasting their time just spending money and consuming. You know, so with Hobo, I think it's a ball. I think it's a ball to travel around and kind of experience. You know, as you said, there's so many good communities that it's hard to just settle at one. It's nice to be able to travel between them and have friends, and then keep those doors open so we can bring more people in.
Yeah.
And showing up and leaving the door open for short-term temporary work exchange, because most of these locations want seasonal or at least a month.
Yeah, they want commitments.
Right.
And you know, for their sake, for logistics, for administering all of this, there's got to be people who are either on staff or who are, you know, really deeply volunteering. We have to manage all this, and it's much easier if they develop dependable people who know the ropes. And so I think that's something that in this whole network of opportunity for people that we're trying to create, for there to be a lot of that, for there to be a whole system for finding interns, longer term relationships, but to harvest, to tap into the benefits of all the short-term travelers is something that hasn't really been done very well yet.
Right.
There are places where it's happening and they're catching on, but it's not as organized of a system as it is for, I mean, if you think about in business or in law enforcement or in various other like national parks, state parks, the communication between the interagency communication is really, really good. You can get anybody that you need through the system, and I feel like we as the counter-economic, the alternative community, we need to develop similar you know, lines of communication, and that's what I see the work you're doing is really tied into, is that idea of building these relationships between projects, and the projects are rooted on the ground, and the people that are hoboing, that are you know, caravanning, they're the nomadic people who cross-pollinate between all of these places. And to organize that whole process, not in a centralized way, like you said, you don't want it to become this thing where it's now everyone uses this one app and that's it. No, you just want, I mean, this is me speaking for myself, I guess, but we want to see more, I want it to be easier for people with projects to get just the right people. And for people who want to travel, want to go around, for them to be able to just easily pick between all the options that they want. And make it just like booking a trip on the web, or, you know, booking calling an Uber.
It's a matter of organization, and one of my favorite ML King quotes is, "Those who want peace must organize as well as those who want war."
Yeah.
And I think that's completely true. You know, I think that the whole Hobo thing, it's many things, but it's a Renaissance catalyst. You know, we need a Renaissance. I feel like with they're calling it the golden age of music now. Because everyone can have access to all this music, and they can make new things and create, you know, everyone can collaborate, and I feel like basically that's what we need, a rise in the cultural awareness. And in order for that to happen, we need art and music. And so I'm saying to people, if you want to come to Flint, we will put you up. There's food here. I'm not going to promise that we're going to be able to serve you meals all the time, because when people come out, especially permies, we like to roll out the red carpet, especially if they're here for a few days. But if you're here for longer, or if we're really busy, the kitchen is stocked. You have a place to stay. You have a hot shower, and you know we can get you where you need to go. So couch surfers, work exchange people, intentional community people, especially permaculturists, artists and musicians, and people who can build.
Well, it's almost like being a permaculturist, an artist, and musician it's like a special currency in the agora, in the new economy, because it's not the same thing as having like a hard good or having, you know, being able to fix something, and yet it is a very big part of what makes a scene, and what turns it from being drudgery into being a party all the time, right? Like you go to perma blitzes where they get the band going, and everybody kind of comes out, and everybody gets a lot of work done, but there's like a snack table, and then there's music, and everybody just has a grand old time. And you would never think of that as like work, but it takes really broad, multi-dimensional thinkers, like you were talking about with permaculture. So that's what permaculture is, in my opinion, is this really big picture, broad perspective approach of planning our lives, you know, designing our infrastructure and designing our social programs. What do we do for fun? How do we organize meals, meetings, any of that stuff? And it's a skill that I think is going to become more and more valuable. People that are experienced grassroots agoristic community builders are going to be much more valued than, and eventually probably than specialists in the professional world, right? And those specialization fields are, I feel like, going to become more pertinent only to the big money projects that are top down, hierarchical, the old paradigm, right? This new economy, there's a new form of value in people that are, circus performing, musician, all that stuff. That has a huge amount of, that's currency, right? That's your art being converted into your trade.
Yeah, you mentioned safe zones. I had commented to you before, Hobo is based, Post-Industrial Pioneers, which became Hobo, because Post-Industrial Pioneers was for the Great Lakes region, and rebranded Hobo for the United States. But it was based on the Underground Railroad, the Pony Express, and the Negro NGB, or Negro Green Book. And the Negro Green Book is the most obscure, but it's when African Americans got middle class jobs and could afford cars in the 60s, and before and after, they would travel and avoid public transportation to avoid harassment, etc. And when they went to the South, they'd want to avoid sundown towns, as well as have a safe place to stay the night at a hotel and get gas. So in a similar way, these are safe zones for any of the above, any of the archetypes that fit this new paradigm we're speaking of. And those people who understand what we're saying know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So if you understand even part of what we're saying, then if you want to have a conversation with us, I'll tell you, that's basically what this is about. If we want to find matches for each other in our communities, we have to get to know each other.
Yeah, conversation, hanging out. Yeah, learning who you learn who people are and what they're going to be wanting to do and how they roll their lifestyle.
And it's been a pleasure having you here, and we have one more Eric, because my father's Eric, that's why I go by EJ, Eric James.
Lots of Erics around here.
And then I had my friend, old friend Eric visit, so we got lots of Erics, but Eric McCool has been super McCool, and he's been a swell guy. He's real swell to be around, and I'm just glad we could host him, and that he's doing good work that hopefully other people can draw from this and use it and put it in their toolkit, because we all have to work together.
Totally.
That's the biggest part of it, and I find that with a lot of, just like always, when people set out to do things, they create organizations, institutions, whatever, there ends up being politics and all this kind of stuff. And one thing I really like and I'm proud of about Flintopia, because that's what these guys started calling it, the
Flintopia.
Like it's some institution, right?
Yeah.
It's so funny. But I like that we are here we end up being a magnet for the kind of rebels and misfits, kind of the people, like there's a master gardener who wants to volunteer here because of the politics. Other people that end up coming to this organization to do their volunteer hours or do different projects because they feel like their own scene or community, well, they're fed up. They're fed up with the back and forth.
A little bit too much red tape, or
sure,
bureaucracy, perhaps.
So we like to try to give as much creative control to people as possible. When I was in the military, I was very into volunteering and professional organizations, and I had creative control at the first station I was, and I loved it. I was able to accomplish a lot, volunteer opportunities, help other airmen learn about them. But I found that once that creative control was taken, and it was at one of my next stations, I mean, if you don't have creative control of your own project, then what's the point? And so I don't want to tell an artist how to paint, ever. If people when people come here, they want to do volunteer hours, I tell them, look, if you can paint a mural or play guitar on the corner or any instrument, if you can juggle or do acrobatics or something, that's valuable.
Yeah.
I find that someone on that corner putting out a positive vibration to all these people who go by, and they go by and they think, wow, there's something decent going on. When these buildings are torn apart, it looks like the end of the Roman Empire.
Right. It looks like our world is collapsing. I really like that you value that. That's something I remember reading about in a permaculture activist magazine about how permaculture economics, they count more value and cost. And we count the cost that in conventional economics, big corporations, they externalize costs, they dump to waste, they wreak havoc on society or on nature, they destroy nature, and they're not paying the cost for that, and that's why their profits are higher. In permaculture, you have to count those costs, and you count the values that you're talking about, the putting out the good vibe, making a place feel good. That's a value that you don't really easily translated to conventional economics, financial economics. People, I mean, you get that a little bit. Like my sister and brother-in-law play in a band down in Texas, and they just play live music at restaurants and wine bars, and that's why that's an example though. They're paying them to be there because they're valuing that energy that they're putting out, and so you're valuing it too by accepting that as a way of volunteering, of contributing. And so that's sort of the invitation out there to everybody is. It doesn't matter if you think you're good at something. Whatever you do, whatever you're good at, find a way to make that a tradable commodity where you can offer that to people. And then you get tied into these networks that were mentioned earlier, and you find locations, you find safe harbors, you find places that you can go where you know your skills are going to be valuable, and you can live a totally outside of the system life. You can just bounce from place to place. You're always taken care of. You can travel super cheap with these networks. It's just, it's another route. Instead of like going into debt and working like the rat race, people could just do this with their lives and develop a really rich education.
Yeah, college has become kind of a joke now, and well, it's become a running joke on the internet because, and you and I were joking about it, talking about how YouTube is a better college than, and I felt like I've been in classes where I'm like, okay, I could teach this class better with YouTube videos, and this guy's boring everyone to death, And you're not winning anyone over. I feel like people have to be really engaged if they're going to learn something. And that's the idea behind the guild, And we talked about also these communities. Some of them have leaders, and that's a problem with anarchy or agorism. Is the problem with leadership. So everyone say, who's going to be in charge? Who's going to make the decisions? Well, we take turns. But what happens is we develop a culture of leadership because Alan Watts, he said anarchy is when you're driving down the street and you see a rock on the highway and you get out and you move the rock. So everyone's responsible. And so it's going to take a while, but basically that's what has to happen. And none of that can exist until everyone's basic needs are met.
Exactly. When people are struggling, they don't have the time to be the responsible, moral person. They just do whatever they have to do.
And I mentioned Bucky Fuller, and also, you and I, we talked about Jacques Fresco. And I met him, I just traveled the U.S. for 6 months after the military before I went back to school. I was going to study sociology at Rutgers, but ended up switching to Maharishi University, MUM. But I met him, and he was a really big inspiration. Just basically, there's so many things.
He's a visionary.
He's invented thousands of things. He's a social engineer. He does everything. But
Venus Project, check it out.
Venus Project. He's about 100 years old now, Jacques Fresco. But he said, look, we've had the technology since World War II at least. If not before, to give everyone food, water, medical care.
Easily.
Easily. And so, well, these old constructs, the way people operate, are just kind of falling away because it becomes more and more obvious that whoever these experts are in these rooms somewhere, who are watching over us, these are the poor, ignorant children who can't manage their own lives. I think that people are starting to realize that they're really they seem to create more problems than they actually solve.
What problems have they solved? What success have they had? Like they being the people that orchestrate the kind of system we have. For instance, the industrial process, the expansion of the war culture, like the never-ending wars. There are people who are responsible for that happening. It's not an accident, it's not inevitable. These are people who are choosing to make this the reality of our world. And our job as the population who starts to see this isn't to go and like string them up. Our job is to stop doing business with them, to stop supporting anything that they have their hands in, and just to start working amongst ourselves and turning our backs on tyrants, on people who are going to try and use violence and force and intimidation to get their way politically or personally or emotionally. These are people that we must turn our backs on and welcome them. It's not like we want to damn them forever. We want to welcome them back when they're ready to play nice. But in the meantime, we have to find ways to make them irrelevant, which means we need self-reliance. We need to not need the products they sell us. And so this is an example of creating localized solutions, localized production, finding ways to create value, to create our own economies.
Yeah, a few people have to break off from the group first and move over, and then slowly but surely, once the group gets big enough and reaches critical mass, all the people over here are just like, okay, well, it's cool now, or it's mainstream, so I'm going to go over here. And well, in order, people say, oh, we need to save the Earth, we need to save the planet. I don't think it needs saving. I think it needs surgical human removal, or it's going to be fine. If we destroy the Earth and we all die, the Earth will be just fine.
It'll come right back.
It'll be much better, actually. But you know, that's a joke because, you know, environmentalists say, well, you know, like Mark Simpson said to me, he said, well, the idea is to create a habitat we can all live in and enjoy. You know? And I mean, every you know, they build new buildings, they build new highways, they build the same bridges. They don't put solar, they don't put water.
Right.
You know, where are all these things? They just milk people. You know, it's all designed to take the money right out of our pockets.
Exactly. We're just a farm. We're just productive capacity for them, I think, in their minds. And of course, they're not going to build infrastructure that serves us and allows us to become self-reliant and free and locally sovereign. And that's really the issue, is we can't wait for them to do it for us. We can't wait for them to give us the okay and approve it, for it to be legal. It's never going to be. We have to just start doing what we know is right and having teams of people, either that if that's legal, if that's with city hall interface with government, county representatives, or if that's just with money, even if that's with actual defense, you know, programs, local militia kinds of things, where we're going to stand up for ourselves and say we have the right to do this. And anyone else coming in, when I say this, I mean controversial environmental eco-village problems like gray water, composting toilets, food serving to the public, selling food without approval, without licensing, with all that. We got the right to do that.
They outlaw rainwater catchment, we do it anyway.
Do it anyway, man. Just like the Ben Folds song. Do it anyway. It doesn't matter what they say. You can, you know, you can weigh the risk. You know, don't get yourself in huge trouble over, you know, pick your battles, those kind of things. But still, don't be afraid to do it just because they say you're not allowed to. If more of us did it all together, it'd be much harder for them to enforce.
Exactly.
And we really just have to organize to make that possible, to make it to where people can get in communication and be like, all right, tomorrow we're all going to make this, it's about applying pressure on the system in order to, I don't know, maybe it's not a good idea to reveal your cards too quickly, but still, I feel that it's possible for us to create larger bodies of organization that can compete with existing institutions in terms of being able to handle the demand of society for take care of me, help me to, like, people are like domestic animals that don't know how to survive in nature. And so we have to have places where there's infrastructure, where there's programs for them to have housing, for them to eat. And as soon as that's provided, they'd leave in a heartbeat because they're in the slums of this other system and they hate it there. They're not free there.
Yeah, the idea of like programs, right? So now we have government programs where we pay the government or whoever, whatever you want to call it, to you know, put people through programs to help them in society. But the truth is, why are we doing that for each other?
Yeah.
I mean, basically, there's what, 3 to 5 empty houses for each homeless person in the United States, something like that. It's ridiculous. I mean, we have way more stuff than we ever could need.
Overbuilt.
Dude, so much stuff. So many cars, so many houses, so much stuff. And we're one of the richest countries in the world. Well, on, you know, on the computer.
Yeah. If you count all that fake money that they printed and made up on the computer, there's another $10 million.
And that's why right now is the time to get into real hard commodities.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, you're hitting it right on the head right there.
And not, you know, everyone says, oh, I'm going to start a business and, you know, I'm going to sell my salsa and it's going to be nationwide, worldwide, everyone's going to buy it. I'm like, well, that's not what you're supposed to do though, right? You're supposed to buy from your neighbor. You're supposed to, I mean, supposed to, but that doesn't help anyone. Shipping stuff on trucks with gasoline across the country. Yeah. Like in Montreal, I went dumpster diving there. A whole dumpster of spinach in plastic containers didn't expire for a whole month. It was shipped all the way from California to Montreal and ended up in a dumpster. So we took the spinach, we cleaned it, you know, took out the little few bad pieces, gave it away to our friends, ate the rest, and recycled the plastic. Yeah. How pathetic is that?
You're having to do that. See, that's an externalized cost. The corporations, the people that are, you know, running the trade and the distribution merchant, you know, retail, they're dumping garbage and they're throwing away calories that could feed people, which is a value, and they're just throwing all that away because their structure of how they do their economics doesn't count that cost, and it's all subsidized by basically government violence and the control of everything.
And not to like bring down on all the problems, because as permaculturists we're solution-oriented thinkers, always thinking on the problem. But you have to know what some of the problems are.
Diagnosis is essential.
Diagnosis is essential, but the good news is we have all the stuff we need right now to fix it.
Right.
And I heard one person describe permaculture as, well, a closet to hang all of human knowledge, because all of human knowledge that we use it basically to fix the problem. So whatever it takes. You know, and Bill Mollison said the one thing he liked about permaculture was that it was hard to define.
Yeah.
You know, and I like that too.
And you won't find two definitions that are exactly the same usually, which is good. I mean, it does make my work a little hard because it's not easy to explain it to everybody.
Right.
But still, that's because, I mean, think about like love. How easy is it to explain love? Love is one of the most dynamic human experiences that there is. But it's not a simple thing. It's different for everybody, and it's deep, man. It's a huge, huge cave to explore of experience and reality. So
I always say that permaculture is, when I give little tours, I always say permaculture is a dinner with friends and you don't have to pay your light bill. Which people often laugh at that. So, which, you know, that's to a mainstream audience, that sounds nice. And that's why I just say food, tea, and medicine. Landscaping, edible landscaping, food, tea, and medicine. So we can produce more than enough. And yeah, that's what I just like it. I like growing stuff, and I'll be here doing it. I'm usually out working. I go out to Lapeer on the weekends, which you got to see out at my mom's at Fort Flintopia, where we started it. And
also talk about, like, you've got like orchard, food forest, gardens all around here. Like who is it that's running those? Are they just set to be on their own, or do you have people that are going to be watering, going to be?
Most of the stuff is no water because I do no tilling. I do almost no watering except when I first plant upon first planting.
Yeah.
But like I do permaculture style with trees, no water. You know, because
Hugelcultures.
hugelculture, all hugelculture, mound gardening. I do make my own compost just for individual planting, so I have a handful for my stuff. But I'm focusing on perennials and self-seeders, especially woody plants, bushes and trees. Doing miniature stuff.
Very low maintenance, very low hands-on.
All lazy farming, you know.
Yeah.
Do nothing farming.
Do nothing farming. Good way to go.
So you go through and you do your little barbecue, perma blitz barbecues, and you do your little chop and drop parties, little harvests.
Bring all the wood material, all the brush.
That's it.
Pile it up.
And basically, it's a program that can be used in any public park anywhere.
Right.
You know, it's just a barbecue where you hang out and you clip leaves and let them fall on the ground. It's dead simple. Because it's again, the food is what brings people, and that's when it happens. You know, because you can grow food and it's like, okay, well, we have food and that's great, but it's the people, man. It's all about. That's why again, social ecology. That's our mission statement. Intentional, sustainable community. And we're not that. We are intentional, but we're not that sustainable yet.
Well, who is? I mean, it's a process.
And we produce very little of our own food at this time. Most of the gardens are 1 or 2 year gardens, but the third year is really the year. And we sell a little bit of seeds, nothing fancy. I buy in bulk, And we have a few different programs, but yeah, we're here. We have space for people, and if we don't, we'll make it.
Yeah. Well, I highly recommend it for anyone who's looking for something to dive into, place to be. This is a good spot, and I think we're about out of time. It's been really great talking with you, though, and good work, man. Great job here. What a great thing. So
thanks for coming.
Yeah, definitely. We'll continue the conversation.
Yeah, I'll see you in Texas.
Yeah, that's right. Terra Lingua.
Terra Lingua tribe.